After the supporting actress awakened, I appeared on a variety show with my younger brother who was widely criticized on the internet. I accused my family of favoring sons over daughters. When we cooked instant noodles when we were young, only his bowl had eggs. But I didn't. That's because you are allergic to eggs. Before that, when we raised rabbits, just because I didn't clean up, my parents only beat me and not you. My younger brother was extremely angry. Is it just because of cleaning up? Isn't it because you tricked me into thinking that rabbit droppings are chocolate beans, and made me eat many of them? I even had droppings in the shape of balls. Netizens, stop slandering him. It's already not easy for him to live to such an age. Don't talk him to death again. The movie King, no wonder your younger brother is so excellent under your cultivation. You are really amazing. Netizens, wake up. You are a love-struck person. After refusing the variety show invitation from my younger brother Bowen, I had a nightmare. In the dream, after I refused, his agency still wouldn't let go of this opportunity. So they found a young artist to pretend to be his sister and create a CP sibling-like couple with him. Bowen was unwilling. So he was completely blackened by water armies. The young artist who pretended to be his sister took the opportunity to sell her misery. His already not good fan base completely became widely criticized on the internet. He was also hidden by the company and required to pay liquidated damages. And Bowen was splashed with sulfuric acid and stabbed several times by an extreme fan of that young artist. He quietly lost his life in an unmanned alley. After learning of this, I tried my best to avenge him. But the young artist was protected by the female lead. In the end, because my family was ruined, I jumped down from an unfinished building in despair. I woke up from the nightmare, panting heavily. The assistant looked at me worriedly. Tiawadi awa. Are you okay? With a pale face, I hurriedly took out my phone. Sure enough, the news that Bowen was going to be on a variety show had already made it to the hot search. And almost all the comments on the square were negative. I pursed my lips and said to the assistant, push all my conferences and other schedules abroad for me. I have something else to do. Before the assistant could say anything, I dialed that phone number again. The teenager's tone was cold and impatient. Didn't I tell you not to disturb me? Why are you calling me again? I answered without changing my expression. You must have heard wrong just now. What I said was that I will go. Tell me the recording time and place. I will definitely go. After staying up several late nights, I finally finished handling the more urgent matters at hand. And the first day of variety show recording arrived. Good news. I remember this matter. Bad news. Because I stayed up several late nights, I got up late. When I got in the car and was about to set off, the variety show on the other side had already started live streaming. Except for me and another flying guest. Everyone else was present. Only Bowen was still standing at the door, lowering his head and fiddling with his phone. The barrage was scrolling crazily. Isn't it a sibling variety show? Why is Bowen alone? Bowen must have been tricked by his sister. Even his own sister doesn't like him. Oh my god. Even if you say so. You shouldn't stand someone up after agreeing to participate in the variety show. Right? Bowen looks so pitiful. All alone. I was about to call Bowen to explain when I saw a woman walking over in an affected manner. Bowen. Why are you alone? Isn't it because your sister saw all those hot searches about you and stood you up? My pupils suddenly shrank. That woman was clearly Elena, a scheming green tea who stepped on Bowen to climb up under the guise of false siblings. I narrowed my eyes and called Bowen, seeing the teenager's frown change from impatience to surprise. And then he answered the phone. I didn't give him a chance to speak and said directly, Bowen, turn on the speakerphone. Although he didn't understand, he still did it and thoughtfully put the speaker part next to his microphone. I stared at the live stream on the tablet and said softly, first of all, thank this girl for your concern for me and my younger brother. But no matter how people blacken him on the internet, I know his character better than any netizen. After all, I am his own sister. Elena's face was alternating between red and white. She forced a laugh twice. I didn't mean that. I ignored her and said to Bowen, I still need about 10 more minutes to arrive. Go back inside and wait for me. Don't get heat stroke in this hot weather. He was stunned for a moment. Then he looked at the camera thoughtfully and said inferently, going in and then coming out again is troublesome. After saying that, he hung up the phone. The barrage had already started to reverse. What does Elena mean by what she said? It's clearly provoking a fight. That's right. It sounds very tea-like. Can those upstairs stop talking nonsense? Our Elena just asked casually. Moreover, everyone knows Bowen's black history. Do we need our good baby to say it? Am I the only one who thinks Bowen's sister's voice sounds very cool? I'm so looking forward to his sister. I turned off the tablet, urged the driver to doctor faster, and then started to close my eyes and rest. When the driver called me to get off, I was still a bit dazed for a moment. I pushed open the car door. Unexpectedly, my steps were a bit weak after waking up. I swayed and almost fell. Fortunately, a pair of broad and warm palms caught me in time. Are you okay? Thank you. Before I could finish speaking, I looked up and saw the person. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Yax? Sister. Before I could ask in detail, Bowen walked over from another direction, along with the cameraman behind him. And Yax and I were still in a very ambiguous position. The barrage exploded. Oh my god. Why is the movie king here? Could it be that he is the flying guest? The woman in his arms must be Bowen's sister. Right? Why is she so beautiful? I thought I was watching an idol drama. I have to say, Bowen's sister is really very beautiful. Brother Heng is actually participating in this variety show? Didn't it say there was a private schedule abroad? Why is he here? It's a degree that even fans are shocked. Bowen walked over. His gaze wandered between me and Yax and asked, Do you know each other? I quickly left Yax's embrace and answered first, We know each other. We're not familiar. We just met a few times before. Yax glanced at me and continued along my words, Indeed. She's right. I forced a laugh and changed the topic. I still have to thank Mr. Kin for catching me. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have fallen flat on my face. He rubbed his fingertips and smiled silently. It's nothing. I just happen to have a good habit of helping others. I shifted my gaze and walked towards Bowen. I raised my arm and ruffled his hair that was damp with sweat. Didn't I tell you to wait inside? Why are you standing outside stupidly? After seeing me, Bowen's expression obviously relaxed a lot. He pursed his lips and handed me the microphone. In a cold voice, he said, I was afraid you wouldn't be able to find the way. I rolled my eyes inwardly. Since Bowen grew up, his temperament has become more and more awkward day by day. He is completely not as cute as when he was a child. Yes. 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 I nodded perfunctorily. Bowen hummed. Just as I was about to take a step, I suddenly thought of something. I turned around and said to Yox, Why don't Mr. Kin come in with us? Yox nodded slightly. Okay. He followed behind. Bowen and I walked in front. I nudged Bowen and covered the microphone. I whispered to him softly, Is Yox someone in the entertainment industry? Bowen looked at me in surprise. He also covered the microphone and whispered, He is the movie king who won the Best Actor this year consecutively. Didn't you say you met him several times? Don't you know? Movie king? I screamed in a breathy voice. Bowen raised an eyebrow. You don't know? I shook my head frantically. Damn it. No one told me that the little milk dog who has been pestering me to confess from abroad is the movie king of the domestic entertainment industry. Bowen glanced at me and said another sentence. You better stay away from Yox. Thinking about Yox's matter, I absently followed Bowen into the villa prepared by the director team. As soon as I walked in, everyone's gazes fell on the three of us. I looked around and my gaze fell on the girl sitting in the center. If I remember correctly, this should be Dahlia, the so-called female lad in my dream. On the surface, she is as indifferent as a chrysanthemum and uninterested in worldly affairs. But in fact, she is a green tea Virgin Mary-like figure with a black heart. What she is best at is using fans to maximize her own interests. Bowen's death seemingly has nothing to do with her. But in fact, there are countless connections. It was she who planned all this behind the scenes. But I don't know why she hates Bowen so much. Moreover, I always feel that I seem to have forgotten some key information. Yax suddenly leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "What's wrong? Your face doesn't look very good." I was startled. I explained with a light smile, "It's nothing. Maybe I'm just too tired." Elena was the first to start being sarcastic. "Bowen, is this really your own sister? Why do I think her relationship with Movie King Kin is better than with you?" Bowen was about to start fighting back. I grabbed his hand to stop him. I looked at Elena with a smile and asked in return, "Why do you have such an idea?" Elena obviously didn't expect me to ask her like this. The smile froze on her face, and her speech became a bit stuttered. You were whispering to Movie King in just now. You didn't even give Bowen a glance. Isn't it because your sibling relationship is bad and your relationship with Movie King Kin is good?" I walked towards her step by step in high heels. I leaned close to her ear, covering the microphone. I said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "Stupid bitch." After saying that, under her shocked gaze, I slowly stepped back to my original position. I continued to ask her with a smile, "Now that I'm also whispering to you, does it mean our relationship is good too?" She seemed to be so angry that she was about to faint. But now the live stream was on. For the sake of her persona, she couldn't scold me. Nor could she explain to the public what I had just said. I was in a great mood. I took Bowen and Yax and sat on the sofa on the other side. The director came late at this time. He cleared his throat and said, "Welcome all the guests to our variety show, sister. Brother, listen to me. Now let's introduce ourselves and get to know each other first. I think we can start from the right." People on the right started to introduce themselves one by one. When it was Bowen's turn, he only had a simple sentence, "Hello everyone. I am Bowen." Very much in his usual style. I smiled and also made a short self-introduction. "Hello everyone. I am Bowen's sister Lila. The sun and moon are shining brightly, and the mountains and waters are far away. These are the names of Bowen and me. As for my job, since it's rather miscellaneous, I won't elaborate on it here." Elena sneered and said in a voice that was small but loud enough for everyone present to hear, "Wearing all designer clothes." I thought there was some big background. Turns out it's just a part-time errand runner. Dahlia stood up just in time. Her expression was indifferent. "Elena, you've gone too far." I raised my eyebrows. Unexpectedly, she changed the topic and continued, "However, I also think it's a bit excessive to show off wearing all designer clothes on the show. After all, being a part-time worker, you should also think about Bowen's remuneration." I sighed inwardly. Sure enough, one should never expect a dog's mouth to spit out ivory. The cooperation between these two is good. One plays the villain, and the other plays the good guy. In just a few words, they put a label on me of sucking my younger brother's blood and being vain. The barrage also started to argue. "Elena's words are a bit excessive, right? Anyway, as an ordinary person on the show, it's normal to want to dress up better. Fortunately, Dahlia is here and has helped salvage the situation a lot." "What's excessive? Didn't you hear them say that Lila is just a handyman? And the money for all the clothes on her body comes from Bowen, a vampire's sister." I still think Elena didn't say enough. As a passerby fan, I think Dahlia's speech this time is really of high emotional intelligence. Am I the only one who thinks that this is a matter between siblings? When outsiders say it, it always feels a bit off. It feels like deliberately embarrassing them. "You are not alone." Bowen sneered. "All the clothes on my sister were bought with her own money. Seriously speaking, the pair of sneakers I'm wearing was also bought by her for me. Are you still going to say that she is a brother-dependent demon?" The expressions on Dahlia and Elena's faces became rather unpleasant. I chuckled and ruffled Bowen's head. Sure enough. My younger brother has grown up and knows how to protect his sister. His earlobes read and then he turned his head, justifying himself. I just think they are too noisy and annoying. Oh my god. Is this still that Bowen who argues with everyone? This contrast is so cute. Woo woo. I also want such a younger brother. The atmosphere was slightly stiff. Yao X took the lead in breaking the deadlock and began to introduce himself. He looked calm and said with a smile, I am Yao X. I am here this time as a special guest to have fun. I slightly lowered my eyes and suddenly remembered a meeting that lasted all day because of a project abroad. He was holding a bouquet of flowers, and waited from early morning until sunset. After waiting for me, he blinked his peach blossom eyes and acted coquettously and pitifully. Sister, I really miss you so much. I have been waiting for you all day. If you still don't have dinner with me tonight, I will really cry. Looking at his serious look now, I inexplicably want to laugh. After everyone introduced themselves, the director said again, now that everyone knows each other, I have one more thing to announce. Let's give warm applause and welcome this issue's flying guest, Nash. Hearing the name, I was instantly shocked. It's the male lead. As soon as Nash came out, he went straight to Dahlia and rubbed her shoulder. I want to team up with my sister. Dahlia helplessly spread out her hands. Well, now I have to take care of two younger brothers. Looking at those two similar faces beside Dahlia, I finally remembered what that important point that I had forgotten was. This is a fake incest novel. And that child is not a younger brother at all, but their child. Dahlia let her child call her sister for the variety show. And Nash found the director team and came as a flying guest to accompany Dahlia. I felt a chill and shuddered. But Dahlia's fans were eating up this relationship on the bullet screen. The overbearing younger brother actually chased after his sister into the variety show. Can I ship this? Taking a step back. Can't they be together for me? Anyway, they are siblings with different fathers and mothers. The fake incest redemption story is really good. There were some passersby who felt uncomfortable, but they were all scolded away by Dahlia's fans. Just when my mind was in a mess, suddenly two coats appeared in front of me. One is Yax's and the other is Bowen's. I was stunned. Netizens also noticed the small actions on our side. Am I seeing it wrong? Yax actually handed his coat to Bowen's ordinary sister? What's the situation? I also really want to ask. What's going on? Bowen threw the clothes on my lap. Weren't you cold just now? I remembered that shiver I had earlier and couldn't help laughing. I blinked twice and said, thank you. He snorted, but the slightly curved corner of his mouth exposed him. Yax's hand was still raised, looking at me with burning eyes, clearly showing a disappointed little expression like a puppy. I secretly sighed and inadvertently brushed the back of his hand when I reached out to politely refuse his clothes. The puppy's eyes lit up and he put away his clothes contentedly. There was nothing much on the first day. The director quickly announced the dismissal and told us to pack up first and prepare for the official live broadcast tomorrow. I took Yax's hand and walked to a secluded corner. Why are you here? Also, why didn't you say that you are a movie king? Yax showed a pitiful expression. The younger brothers on this show are young and energetic. I'm afraid you will be attracted away by others. Besides, being a movie king is just a title. It has nothing to do with my liking for my sister. I was rather amused. Are you so unconfident in yourself? He nodded seriously and still looked aggrieved. Of course not. After all, I have been chasing my sister for so long, and my sister has never given me a definite status. I pretended to think for a moment and said to him, want a status? It's not impossible. It depends on your performance in the variety show. Yax's eyes lit up instantly. After chatting with him, I went to find Bowen again. Still that cold poker face. Why did you suddenly agree to participate in the variety show? I raised my eyebrows. You are my younger brother and I am your sister. If I don't accompany you, who will? He didn't speak. I secretly sighed. His awkward personality wasn't formed in a day or two. I didn't expect him to open up to me right now. After simply giving him a few words of advice, I left. Early the next morning, the director issued the first task. He took out a card drawing box. Everyone's first task is in this box. Please draw the first task of the variety show. Good luck to everyone. 2 minutes later, I looked at the task card that required making a meal for relatives and fell into deep thought. I can't cook. Bowen's expression was also rather bad. I leaned over to take a look. It was to perform a song and dance as a gift for me. My eyes darkened. Suddenly, I thought of several hot searches I saw a long time ago. Bowen's debut was exposed for vote trigging. Bowen was suspected of being sponsored by a big shot in the industry. Bowen quit the group guiltily. I remembered that the contestant who was squeezed out by Xiao Xiao Bat then seemed to be called do something or UI. I adjusted my mood and said to Bowen with a smile, Xiao Xiao, are you ready? Sister can't wait. He pursed his lips and asked stiffly, what type of dance do you like? As long as it's performed by our Xiao Xiao. I think anything is fine. He looked at me in surprise and then looked away. You seem a bit abnormal today. You weren't like this before. I said with a hidden knife in my smile. Don't force me to give you 2 punches in front of the camera. He seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Ya X came over. Miss Liu. Considering that we know each other. Perhaps. Can I have a meal? The corners of my mouth started to twitch. Sure. As long as you can eat it. I took 2 packs of instant noodles and walked into the kitchen. Since I blew up my kitchen when I was 12 years old because I had a whim to make egg fried rice. My parents and Bowen have blacklisted me from the kitchen. Although I haven't been in the kitchen for a long time. It's just cooking instant noodles. It should not be difficult. 10 minutes later, I was holding a pot of something that should be mosaic-cad in a comic and remained silent. Bowen seemed to have expected it. There wasn't much change in his expression. Yao X seemed stunned for a moment. I bit my lip in embarrassment and explained, I'm really not good at cooking. Elena came over and said sarcastically, no way. After all, Bowen is a star. Is he just going to eat this? Dahlia also frowned and said, it's really a bit shabby. Women should learn more cooking skills. Bowen snorted, there's no need. If my sister's future boyfriend can't cook, then there's no need for him to enter my family's door. I don't know if it was my illusion, but his gaze seemed to glance at your ex intentionally or unintentionally. I swallowed. Could it be that Bowen saw something? Ya X raised a smile. Then it seems that I meet one of the essential conditions for Miss Liu to choose a son-in-law. I'm quite good at cooking. Did your ex drink too much? Does he really know what he's saying? No. Is the meaning in your ex's words what I think? Isn't Bowen's sister just an ordinary person? Could it be that your ex is really captivated by beauty? Suddenly, I had a bold thought. Could it be that your ex came to participate in the variety show for Lola? I was afraid that they would say something they shouldn't say again. I quickly changed the topic while others hadn't reacted. I picked out an object that could barely be recognized as an egg from that pot of mess and put it in Bowen's bowl. Since it's already made, why don't you taste it? I think this egg is still edible. Under my gaze, he picked up his chopsticks and tasted a little. After eating, Bowen gave his evaluation. This egg is quite egg-like. Bowen didn't let his sister off either, laughing to death. Sure enough, poisoned Xiao is quite sharp-tongued at any time. I narrowed my eyes and clicked my tongue. If you like eggs, eat them all. Bowen didn't speak in date in small bites. Looking at the way he was eating, I suddenly thought of some things from when we were little. My gaze drifted into the distance and my voice was full of smiles. Speaking of which, do you still remember when we were little and also cooked instant noodles? But Dad would cook them separately. He would only add eggs to your bowl. You don't know how long I secretly envied you. What does that mean? Does Bowen's family favor boys over girls? But looking at the way Bowen and Lila get along, it doesn't seem like it happens in a family that favors boys over girls. Bowen put down his chopsticks and his expression was very complicated. That's because you are allergic to eggs. Dad was afraid that there would be egg shreds in the instant noodle soup. So he made a separate one for you. Think about it. Which time didn't you have more ingredients in your bowl than mine? I touched my nose. Ah. No wonder every time I eat eggs and instant salads later, I start having diarrhea. It turns out it's an allergy. Seeing the disgust in his eyes, I was not convinced. But there was a time when it was windy and rainy. When Mom and Dad found us, they only wiped the rain off you. That's because you insisted that this kind of weather was suitable for flying kids and tied me to a tree. I almost got struck by lightning. You hid under the bridge and didn't get a drop of rain. Before, when we raised rabbits, just because I didn't clean up, Mom and Dad only beat me and not you. Bowen hesitated several times and seemed rather hard to speak. I looked at him provocatively. Have nothing to say? Let me tell you. Mom and Dad are partial to you. His face flushed red and finally he said, Is it because of cleaning up? Isn't it because you tricked me into thinking that rabbit poop is chocolate beans and made me eat a lot? My poop was in the shape of little balls. The bullet screen was silent for a moment and then was filled with ha ha ha. Someone come and hug him. I feel that when he said these things, he was already broken. Well, although, it's really so funny. What kind of life did Bowen live when he was little? I never expected Bowen to have such a side. Oh my god. I really love this contrast. Stop slandering him. It's already not easy for him to live this long. Don't talk him to death again. Others who heard our conversation also had expressions of wanting to laugh but not daring to. Yak sat on one side and said in a leisurely tone, No wonder Bowen is so smart. It turns out that it's all due to his sister's excellent teaching. I really don't want to say it. Yaks, can't you come up with something more valuable? All right. Yax's love for Lila has been verified. Wake up. You are a top-level love-struck person. I narrowed my eyes and gave your ex a glare. Then withdrew my gaze and smiled as I gently ruffled Bowen's hair. This is right. Only when you are so lively are you like my younger brother. That serious look on your face and pretending to be mature before really didn't suit you. His face started to turn red rapidly again. I sighed. I'm sorry. Xiao Xiao. He turned to look at me in surprise. Not understanding my apology. I pursed my lips. Since Mom and Dad passed away, I have been too busy with my career. So I neglected you. In fact, I must admit that Bowen's rather awkward personality change is directly related to me. At that time, our parents died unexpectedly in an accident. Before I could even sort out my emotions, I took over all the affairs of the company and even gave up the hard-won advanced study opportunity. Obviously, Bowen used to like clinging to me the most. Just because I was too busy and didn't have time to have a good talk with him. So I don't know from which day on, we gradually grew distant. It's ridiculous that I actually thought he had become mature and felt relieved. If I hadn't had that dream, maybe our fates would really turn out like that. Just thinking about those things makes me constantly terrified. I'm sorry. Xiao Xiao. I said it again. In the days after Mom and Dad left, I was indeed a bit extreme. I thought that since I could manage both ends, why were you so delicate and only knew to cry behind me and follow me around? But later, when I came out of that dead end and wanted to apologize to you, I found that you had unknowingly grown distant from me. Sister actually owes you an apology all along. Now not only did his face turn red, but even his eyes rimmed with red. What are you talking about? We are siblings. There's no need to apologize. Oh, I'm about to cry. The sibling relationship is really great to ship. So it's like this. I start to wonder if Bowen was really as cute as his sister said when he was little. I clapped my hands. Okay. Enough with the emotional stuff. Let's move on to the next part. Originally, I wanted Bowen to perform first. But Dahlia took the initiative and wanted to complete the task first. The task she drew was to dance. Elena flattered on the side. Dahlia is going to dance? Then we are in for a treat. After all, Dahlia has been learning ballet since she was a child. She was even invited by the famous foreign ballet troupe Shuyu to become a dancer. I raised my eyebrows and didn't say anything. Dahlia still maintained her aloof and elegant persona. But the proud smile on her lips never disappeared. She put on a ballet costume. Nash was completely infatuated. "Sister, you are so beautiful." Dahlia was full of shyness. The barrage was filled with shipping again. The music started, and Dahlia danced gracefully with the music. Watching her, my frown gradually deepened. After the dance was over, except for our trio, everyone else gave face and applauded. Dahlia lifted her skirt and thanked them. Elena asked me obsequiously, "Leila, what do you think of Dahlia's dance? Ballet performances are not something people of your class can appreciate. This must be the first time you've seen it, right?" I nodded and spoke without mercy. "Such a terrible dance is indeed the first time I've seen. To be honest. Did Chuyu really send you an invitation to be a dancer? What does Lila mean? I just had a little bit of a good impression of her. But now I've turned from a fan to a hater. People who don't know how to appreciate it actually say such things. It's really speechless." I turned to look at Yo X on the side. "Actor Kin, what do you think of Dahlia's dance?" Yo X's mouth was even more cutting than mine. A grasshopper doing high jump. Bowen couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. I also curved my lips. Dahlia's face instantly became extremely ugly. Nash glared at us lie. "What are you talking about? Saying that sister dances badly. Then you dance one if you can." I shrugged. "Let me dance. That's a different price. After all, the chief-led dancer of Shuyu is not someone you can afford to invite just because you want to." They seemed to have heard a huge joke. Elena sneered. "As we all know, the chief dancer of Shuyu is quite mysterious. Even during performances, they will cover their faces with light gauze or mask and never show their faces. But some people can't just casually lie and say they are just because the person is mysterious." Ya X spread his hands. "What she said is true. Otherwise, do you think why Shuyu suddenly changed the performance content and why I cancelled my overseas trip? Naturally, it's because Tiawari Awa is here and can't go back overseas. With Ya X's guarantee, the expressions of others changed in various ways. I took out my phone, tapped twice on the screen, and then looked up and said to the others. At first, because I still had to take care of the family company, I didn't want to be recognized by others, so I always covered my face. But now that it's come to this, I have nothing more to hide. Everyone can go to the homepage of Shu Yu Dance Troupe and take a look." They all took out their phones. Dahlia's hands trembled as she clicked on the page, seeing that Shu Yu had just updated a Weibo post. Everyone on the variety show. Hello. The hand holding the phone was about to burst out with veins. I was too lazy to pay attention to them and said to Bowen, "Aren't you going to perform? Start now." I clicked on the playback software and brought up a song. Hearing the prelude, Bowen's expression became subtle. "Are you sure?" I nodded with a smile and cheered him on with my eyes. He stood up without hesitation and started swaying his body with the rhythm of the music. The singing breath was also quite stable. Isn't this the theme song from Bowen's previous talent show? Oh my god. This sister is here to stir up trouble. Honestly speaking, after such a long time, I didn't expect Bowen to still dance so well. It feels like the song is engraved in his DNA. As Bowen's career fan, I finally dared to speak up. Back then, Bowen was fourth in the group formation. A certain person who was stuck at the 8th place in the debut position actually had the nerve to say that Bowen cheated votes and blocked their brother's way to debut in the group. I really can't stand it. Okay. Just because the 7th place was a child star debut and they didn't dare to offend. They picked on our Bowen. And they still had the nerve to bite back and say that we slandered them. That's right. Bowen's debut in the group is completely legitimate. After singing and dancing to a song, I couldn't stop applauding. That's great. The 4th place is well deserved. In my sister's heart, you are the first. I paused and looked at Dahlia with a smile. Dahlia, don't you think so? I didn't miss the flash of hatred in her eyes. She pursed her lips and still had that calm look. She said in a condescending tone, Zhao Zhao, since you have the strength, why did you cheat votes back then? Aren't you just digging a hole for yourself? Elena chimed in on the side. That's right. If you have strength, why cheat votes? And you also rely on a sugared addy. I accidentally said the wrong thing. Sister won't mind, right? I nodded. Of course not. After all, these words are all being broadcast live. I just need to ask my lawyer to sue you for slander. What do I have to mind? Hearing this, Elena was stunned at first. Then she said angrily, I just accidentally said the wrong thing. Since it's not true, then why are you so eager to silence me now if you have nothing to be about? I was too lazy to talk to fools. I lifted my chin at Yox. Yox got it in a second and took over the conversation. Slander and rumor spreading with more than 500 rate posts already constitutes an illegal crime. We are live broadcasting now. Do you think it's enough for you to step on the sewing machine for how long? Looking at the expressions of the two people in the self-destructing duo as if they had eaten shit, I picked up my water cup and moist in my throat. Then I said again, in short, I have already posted all the evidence materials. At the same time, I will also ask my lawyer to follow up. I will not let go of anyone who bullied Zhao Zhao back then. In the past, Bowen really didn't have a sugared addy. But it doesn't matter. Because his backer has come. I rather narcissistic ally tossed my hair. Bowen closed his eyes tightly, unwilling to face it. Yox put his hands on his cheeks and looked at me. I also lack a sugar daddy. Master, do you think I am qualified to be capped? I gave Yox a charming smile. Don't make me beat you when I am having the most fun. Bringing up old matters again. Bowen proved his innocence. Coupled with Yox's flirtatious words, the live broadcast popularity directly exceeded 10 million. The network also crashed. The live broadcast was forced to pause. The director couldn't stop smiling. Pretending to be regretful. He said, There's no way. Let's continue the live broadcast when the line is fixed. Taking advantage of everyone being there, I pretended to suddenly remember something and said loudly, Speaking of which, I remember that there was a very enthusiastic fan of the contestant, who was stuck in the debut position back then, also named Dahlia. Could it be you? Everyone looked at Dahlia. Her face immediately turned extremely pale. And the look in her eyes when looking at me was also full of horror. I smiled sweetly and left with Bowen and Yox. After walking a certain distance, Bowen came over and quietly and awkwardly said thank you to me. I laughed. You are my younger brother. What's there to thank? It's my fault. I should have helped our Zhao Zhao prove his innocence long ago. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been wronged for so many years. He pursed his lips. I nudged his shoulder. Little cry baby. Are you going to cry again? He awkwardly shifted his gaze. Stubbornly said, No. After the knot in his heart was untied. He was less angular than before and no longer thorny all over. Yox came over. What are you talking about? Let me join in too. Bowen resumed his cold face and pulled me away. Yox. I was puzzled. But seeing Bowen's unusual reaction for the first time in a long time, I let him do as he wanted. It wasn't until we reached a secluded corner that he hesitated and asked me, Sister, do you like Yox? I raised my eyebrows and asked back, Don't you like him? He nodded without hesitation. I don't like him. Why? He thought for a while and replied, For a period of time. My resources were not very good. I was almost about to be frozen by the company. At that time, Yox appeared and helped me. I was even more puzzled. Then shouldn't you thank and like him? He smiled. At first, I was indeed very grateful to him. But he was too good to me. It scared me into thinking he was gay. But after coming on this variety show, I understood. It's just loving someone and caring for those around them. I regarded him as gay. But in the end, he coveted my sister. I couldn't help laughing. I deliberately asked him very sincerely. Then what? He doesn't like you. So you are angry? He was covered in goosensed. I am a completely heterosexual person. Okay? I just think he is too scheming. I'm afraid you will be deceived. I touched his head. Don't worry. Your sister is not a good person either. It's not certain who will deceive whom. His mouth twitched nonstop. Although I have already changed most of the plot, I still couldn't help but remind him. Before the variety show recording ends, you have to be extremely careful in what you do. Do you know? Although he didn't know why I suddenly said such a sentence, he still nodded. Because of the clarification post I hung on Weibo, public opinion finally began to develop in a good direction. Bowen gained 4 million fans in just a few days. And my and X's CP fans also had a 1 million strong army. But for some reason, I always felt uneasy. Elena and Dahlia were too honest. I always felt they were up to no good. Soon it was the last day of variety show recording. Early in the morning, a woman's scream resounded through the entire villa. Following the source of the sound, I saw Elena with disheveled clothes and Bowen who was still asleep and half naked. Damn. What's the situation? I didn't expect Bowen to be such a person. The live broadcast scene was once chaotic. The director quickly called for the live broadcast to be terminated. I didn't agree. The live broadcast continues. I want to see who wants to harm my younger brother. Bowen was awake and by the noise. Seeing the scene in front of him, he was stunned for a moment. And then frowned. I didn't do anything. Elena sobbed and cried. Okay. Bowen. Last night you said you wanted to apologize to me. You tricked me into your room. You made me drink the drugged wine and ruin my innocence. Now you don't admit it. I will call the police. I will arrest all of you. I put clothes on Bowen and pulled him behind me. I sneered. Don't wait for you to say. I have already called the police. After saying this, Elena's expression froze for a moment. She glanced at Dahlia slightly guiltily. Dahlia jumped out and said, So you mean that Elena ruined her own innocence and framed Bowen? How could a girl joke about her own innocence? Whether it's self-destructing innocence or not will be known when the police come. X said. In short, before the police come. If you don't want to be regarded as a suspect, no one should act rashly. Bowen sneered and snorted. Don't wait for the police to come. There is a small GoPro in my room that has been on all the time. Everyone can just see what happened last night. Elena's face suddenly turned pale. No. How is this possible? He glanced at Elena. Before. My sister said she was not very relieved. So I put one of these here just in case. Unexpectedly. It really came in handy. I curved my lips and mouthed to him. Well done. The police quickly arrived. In addition to the video in Bowen's room showing that Elena drugged him, and then took off her own clothes and staged it all by herself. A lot of illegal drugs were also found in Elena's suitcase. Elena was taken away by the police on the spot. I looked at Dahlia who was standing aside and also had a bad expression. I raised my eyebrows. Dahlia, you usually have the closest relationship with Elena. Didn't you find anything wrong? She quickly distanced herself from the relationship between the two. We are just ordinary colleagues. I didn't expect her to do such a thing. Sure enough. People can't be judged by their appearance. When Elena heard this, she showed an incredulous expression. She screamed sharply, Dahlia. I treated you sincerely. But you actually treat me like this. If I can't live, you won't have a good life either. I will report Dahlia for drug use and tax evasion. Dahlia immediately changed her expression. She tried her best to defend herself. She is slandering me. I will find a lawyer to sue her for slander. But netizens are not fools either. The guilt on her face just now couldn't be hidden. I curved the corner of my mouth. Whether it's true or not, the police uncle will investigate clearly. But before that, I also prepared a big gift for you. In the next second, Nash rushed in angrily, and without hesitation gave Dahlia a resounding slap. Bitch. Didn't you say that the person you like the most is me? How dare you mess around with others behind my back? Whose son is Andre's? Say it. Say it. Everyone was caught off guard by the sudden change. The netizens in the live broadcast room were also stunned one after another. So, who can tell me what's going on now? No, so Andres is not Dahlia's younger brother. But her son? Is it her child with her younger brother? Oh my god. So disgusting. Nash kicked Dahlia in the stomach, saying that you are the most loyal believer of David? Did you start seducing me just to help him take revenge on Bowen? You bitch. Hearing David's name, Bowen was obviously stunned. I reached out and patted his back to comfort him. Last time when we mentioned the plagiarism incident, I felt Dahlia's reaction was too extreme. It wasn't until I asked my assistant to check carefully that I found out that Dahlia was an extreme private fan of David a long time ago. I don't know how David brainwashed them. In short, these extreme fans firmly believe in his words and think that all the mistakes are on Bowen. After all, among the top 7, only Bowen had no background at all. If it weren't for Bowen, David wouldn't be stuck in the next place after the debut position. And he wouldn't be so sad that he quit the entertainment circle. They wouldn't never see their beloved brother again. And the extreme among these extreme fans is Dahlia. But what these fans don't know is that after David deceived them and said he was quitting the entertainment circle, in fact, he went abroad to hide because he was found to be taking drugs. But I used some means. Now he is on his way back to the country under custody. I sent all these materials to Nash. And I also did something on his son's identification report. In the novel, Nash was originally paranoid, knowing that the woman he always loved still had another man in her heart. It would be strange if he didn't go crazy. Although his son looked almost exactly like him, he had lost his ability to think independently and would only believe the non-blood relationship on the report. I waited for them to bite each other. Sure enough, they didn't disappoint me. When the director team reacted and quickly went to pull them apart, I don't know who shouted, "Blood!" Dahlia's legs are full of blood. Everyone was in a panic again as they called an ambulance and the police. I raised my eyes and looked at the 2 men beside me. Let's go. It seems that it has nothing to do with us. Dahlia had a miscarriage after being kicked and was injured in the uterus. She couldn't have children for the rest of her life. And Nash was also locked up for intentional injury. Although his family is rich and he probably won't be locked up for long. But with his character, I'm afraid he won't let Dahlia go for the rest of his life. Having reversed the fates of me and Bowen, I was in a great mood. Because of the variety show, the relationship between me and Bowen was thawed and relieved. The communication became more than before. His mood was also quite good. Only X was in a bad mood. He cried and complained. Didn't you say that you would give me a status after the variety show ended? Where is the status? I felt guilty. Next time for sure. He didn't reply to me again. Originally, I thought he was angry and didn't want to talk to me. But after a while, I received a message from Bowen. Sister, look at the hot search. Although I still think he is a scheming man. But if it's just dating and having fun, I don't object. I clicked on Weibo's hot search without knowing why. X was high on the top list. Clicking in, there were dozens of his Weibo posts. A real man never cries. I couldn't figure it out. Why did I promise to give him a status? But now I don't keep my word. I really want to cry. I just want a status. It turns out that I don't deserve it. The comments from his fans below were also quite shocking. Indeed. After all, you only have the title of Movie King. You are also quite old. You are a bit unworthy of someone as excellent as Sister Tiawatiawa. X. Oh, haven't been dumped yet? And on my Weibo zombie account, the comments under the latest Weibo post were although but. X's face is still quite presentable. Why not take him in and make him a little one? Sister. Look at him. 100 resentful remarks in half an hour. Our fans are really tired of controlling the comments. I was speechless and amused. After thinking about it, I posted a Weibo in response to the needs of netizens. I take back your ex and give him the title of intern boyfriend for 3 months. Ya ex's call came very quickly. His tone was uncontrollably excited. Tiawadi awa. Is what you said true? Did you really agree to be my girlfriend? I cleared my throat. It's just an intern boyfriend. If I'm not satisfied in 3 months, you will be laid off. He was full of confidence. Don't worry. I won't give you a chance to lay me off. A year later, a certain concerned man, who successfully passed the 3-month internship period, the 5-month younger brother assessment period, and the 4-month-long distance relationship period proposed to me. I looked at Ya ex, who was kneeling on one knee and his hand holding the ring was shaking constantly. I smiled and nodded and said the words I do. Bowen said reluctantly on the side, I will leave my sister to you from now on. If you dare to bully her, don't blame me for being impolite. Ya ex patted his chest and promised, don't worry, big brother. After the proposal ceremony, Ya ex sent me home. The car stopped by the side of the road. Ya ex looked into my eyes and said, Tiawadi awa. Have I ever said that I love you very much? I smiled, yes. You have said it many times. After a pause, I clasped the back of his head and landed a kiss on his lips. Softly, I said, coincidentally, so do I.